job. Yeah.
So just remind people it's live stream just because we are in a different place.
Just say that again.
Just remind people that we are live streaming.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Cambridge Community Board meeting for March 2026. It's a pleasure to be in the Cambridge Town Hall this evening, our first, I think, meeting outside of the Kaipeka room for a long, long time. So, as I mentioned, a warm welcome to all members of the board, the public, staff, presenters tonight. We don't have a karakia this evening as part of our protocol, but I would just like to say, our thoughts are with the people that can't be with us here tonight. So, just some administration. We are live streamed. If everyone could remember that, we'll be across the World Wide Web. So, speak loud and proud, and everyone can hear. The microphones are different tonight. This one is on all the time, but anyone else wishing to speak needs to hold a microphone. The public forum do have one in front of them, but members, if you wish to speak, you have to hold it to your mouth, and when you have to put it down when you're finished, and then the IT support will turn it off or mute it once you take it down away from your mouth. So, without further ado, we'll get into the agenda. Apologies are first up, and tonight apologies been received from the chairperson, Charlotte Fitzpatrick. We have a mover and a seconder for that. Mike, mover, and Pip, seconder. Any other apologies? No. We can move on. Disclosure of members' interests. Is there anybody that wishes to disclose interest in items of the agenda as a conflict? With the apologies, all in favour? Against? Carried. Disclosure of interests. I didn't see any. All in favour? Against? Carried. Okay, now we move into the best part of the evening, the public forum. Welcome to those wishing to speak. We've got approximately 5 minutes each to convince us to change the world. And first up, we've got Brent and Graham, Brent Nicholson and Graham Weber, and you are going to tell us about the Leukwina and sister city relationships.
Yeah, Andrew, thank you so much, and congratulations everybody on your election. I'm sure you will enjoy the community board. I did 21 on council and 24 in total on the community board. Loved it. You're close to the action. It's not our purpose tonight to overstep the mark in terms of time, so we'll get on. As you well know, we do have two sister cities, and they're like a chalk and cheese. And Brent is part of the Bohoro. He's the chairman of the Maki Trust, and he will cover some of that. But I'll cover some of the Leukwina because I've got some ideas I'd like to throw out to you and see how that goes. So I represented the council at the 100-year commemoration in Leukwina, and it was just a highlight of my life, to be fair. It was absolutely fantastic. And we all know what Leukwina is about. It's the Kiwis going over that brick wall, monstrous brick wall, 4,000 Germans in there. They saw them coming over and the Germans surrendered. So it's a wonderful, wonderful story. And Bihoro is a lot different to that. So see how we go on that. I bought all these minted souvenirs because they were fundraising for the museum, which is the old constabulary up in Leukwina. And I got 2 full sets. I won't tell you how much they cost, but I emptied 3 ATMs in Leukwina to get enough cash to buy them. My intention was to keep a set for myself because I think they're really, really special. And the other set I would have liked to have proceeded to the council. However, we've only got 1 case down there for showing off, and it's not big enough. And I didn't think there was enough security there to be able to put those in there and say that they were safe. So one of the things I'm proposing, and I think from what I've seen some of the minutes, you're keen as well, to get more people interested in Leukwina, to get more people interested in Bihoro. Bihoro Cho means place with plenty of water. And the people that used to inhabit Hokkaido in the northern island of Japan were people called the Ainu tribe, and they're a bit like Eskimos. However, 200 years ago, the Japanese decided to go in with their horse and their sabres, and they killed pretty well 99% of them. It was horrific. And you only can find that out because I've got a special friend up there, 91, who was a teacher, and he told me the history behind it. Anyhow, going back to Le Quinois. So what I'm hoping we might do is to try, and I'm going to donate money to buy a new cabinet so that Bihoro's got a cabinet big enough to take the stuff, and Le Quinois got a cabinet. And Heather and I went up the other day and had a bit of a measure, and we'd quite like those cabinets to go into the library, because unless you're going to a meeting, you can't get past those locked doors where the toilets are. So people don't see what's in there. There's no history there, and it's just one of those things that I'm really, really passionate about. And if you want, because if you want people to take an interest, because a lot of people think Sister Cities is a bit of a junket, but all the Sister Cities that I've been up to, and I've been to Bihoro 4 times, has all never been council money, but it's been my money. So totally happy with that. But I'm offering to do that and have that in the cabinet for Precious, and that's the day's proceeding for the day at Le Quinois. I've got my name in there. But, that's something nice as well. So anyhow, I'm not wanting to say anything more, but I shall talk to a property manager, maybe Kirsty in council, Joe, about what we could do or what we might do. You think it's worthwhile? I hope the board does. I'm very happy to pay for that. To me, that's special, very special. Yeah. Thanks a million. Brent, I'll hang over to Brent. Yeah.
Thanks very much. Team, I wanted to firstly thank you for the invitation and the ability to talk a bit about the Bihoro Sister City relationship. Do I need to move that nearer? Right, let's try a bit of that. So it's a relationship which has endured since last century. Bit of context, the Japanese people and government value sister city relationships enormously. And so for those that have been up, they're treated like royalty. But the way that this one came about was a Bihoro citizen by the name of Professor Yamaki was doing an exchange with the University of Waikato. He stayed in Cambridge whilst he was doing that, and this reminded him of his hometown, and he fell in love with the place. He befriended a Waipa District Council employee of the time, Murray Maxwell, and from that friendship, a donation of $100,000 to establish a sister city relationship between his hometown and his spiritual home of Cambridge. I'll digress and talk about that lovely, as it's known, the Bihoro Lovely Fund. That's been carefully managed over the years. It has a current value of $188,000. It's held in a trust, and the purposes of the trust are to further the Bihoro Cambridge sister city relationship. Really, back last century, there was a meeting of the minds, and that was Professor Yamaki, the Bihoro Town Council, who had for some years been looking for a sister city relationship because it's so important in the Japanese culture, and of Cambridge. And so every couple of years since then, there has been a delegation that has either gone up to Bihoro or has come down from Bihoro. There has been a theme for each of those delegations, whether it be health or education or agriculture. Education, the relationship initially was St Peter's, and that's really grown to Cambridge High School. And so there are students who come down and for a term, and the the fund has helped to accommodate them whilst they've been down here, and likewise. This is a relationship that the Cambridge Community Board holds. It's not costly. It's purely in name, and it's to have the support of the Waipa District Council through the Cambridge Community Board to further it. And I hope that I've painted a picture that there is some financial support that's available to make that happen as well. Me and Mike has a very solid relationship with the current and previous mayors in Baharo, and we've enjoyed that relationship as well. So look, that's all I want to say, and I hope the Cambridge Community Board will pick it up, and we're there to assist this enduring relationship. Thank you.
Mr Chairman, just wanted to add a little bit in there, because you know how keen the Japanese in Bihoro were to do a sister city. They tried to become sister cities with Inverness and Scotland for 17 years, and they were turned down 17 times. That's what you call persistence, but anyhow.
Are they today or no?
What's that?
With Inverness? No.
Nope.
No.
No, never happened.
Brendan Graham, thank you very much for coming in.
It's a pleasure.
I had the good fortune of going to Bihoro, I think 2 years ago, and no, it wasn't just a touristic trip. No, we looked at education and agriculture. We went to a place where the population was in decline, and the stresses on the town and its funding were relevant to me and to the future of what can happen in New Zealand in the future. So I thought that was a great learning, and you only see that by going over there and experiencing that. Do any other members have a comment or question for the presenters? We, as a community board, Gerda has been leading our Likwina, would it be called a subcommittee, and I've been tasked with the Bihoro group, which we'll be meeting for the first time shortly. So things are underway, and we're talking about what's happening next. Thank you.
Thank you.
So much.
Thank you all.
Okay, I'd like to welcome Dave Kilbride and Peter Bryant to talk about the Cambridge Rackets Club. Welcome you guys. We heard from you, I think. A year, I think it was probably a year ago, Dave. You came and talked about your sort of master plan or for your upgrade for the club rooms, and it's great to have you back and to hear further about how the club's going.
Yeah, thank you, Andrew. In committee, yes, I guess it was a year ago, so the purpose of today is to update, and obviously there's some new faces around the table. So as you may or may not know, the Rackets Club has been in existence since the 1880s in Cambridge. Currently we have a lease with the council, it's the council land, we own the buildings, and I guess purpose of today is also just to update you where you are and to get some support from you to council. We're in the midst of fundraising, so our building, particularly the squash club, squash courts and the clubhouse, hasn't had a major facelift since probably the 80s. And actually one of our committee members went to the museum just to go back and to see the progress, and every time it's always been a big task, and everyone thinks it's too hard to do and it costs too much money. So the theme hasn't changed. It's just that the years have changed. Things like the tennis courts have been upgraded. So there has been a lot of upgrade going on, but now we're at this next stage where this is a big piece of the pie. So we're just looking for support. I'm president of the overall club, and then we have a subcommittee of tennis and squash, approximately 400 members at the moment. Tennis in particular is very, very strong. There's only 4 clubs in the Waikato now that are playing Premier Tennis, of which Cambridge is one of them. So, we've got a really good program with kids, and Peter will talk about a bit more of that. And squash is also holding its own. It helps when you've still got Joel King as a member, and good recognition there. And squash now going to the Olympics is getting good coverage. Pete is chair of what's called the Facilities Committee. So we set up that committee a few years ago. just to, is what it says, to look after the facilities. So he's charged with that next project, so I'll let him give you a bit of an update.
Thank you. So we presented some concept plans, I think, the last time that we were here, and since then we've been desperately trying to figure out the funding path to moving forward. So we've got some sponsors now, we're looking for more, and we're at the point now where we're needing to apply for grants. One of the big granting funding sources is the Lotteries Commission. They've got a facilities fund that they make available for big capital works projects. And that requires letters of support. So one of the reasons that we're here in front of the community board is to talk to you a little bit about the club's role in the community, and we'd seek after this meeting to get a letter of support from you that we could use in grant applications. So stage said we've got 420 odd members. If you drive past the club, which is sitting up above the top of the lake in the recreation reserve, pretty much any time of the day, night or weekend, you'll usually find a hive of activity. Particularly at the moment in the evenings, the lights will be on. We've got people queuing to get onto tennis courts for an hour or so at a time. We've got men's leagues, women's leagues, mixed leagues, rock-up leagues. We've got midweek sessions that are sort of focused a little bit more on retired people. The courts are overflowing with kids on all afternoons of the week, where they're getting tennis coaching, mostly from Kiwi Tennis and a couple of other providers. On the squash side of things, which can be a little bit invisible because it's inside this old, ugly looking building where nobody really goes into, it's not very accessible. We also have a massive program for squash juniors on a Tuesday afternoon. Myself and a couple of other club members volunteer for kids coaching, ranging from just preschool through to high school age. We have, I think, the last lot we did, there were about 40 or 50 people, kids, over 2 or 3 sessions that we coached at the club. And so the club is basically not just a sports facility, it's a place where people gather, perform activities. We host rowers when they come into town and they need accommodation. We've had Parafed organisation come, and we've had 30 or 40 people blasting around in wheelchairs on tennis courts and squash courts. We've had the Magic netball team there the other week doing a team building prep for the season. So the renovation that we're trying to do, it's all about modernising the club. It's turning it from a 1960s building into a modern building. It's making it so that the club is accessible, so that people in wheelchairs can get into the building and can get up to the top floors. And we consider it a community facility. We want the community to get the most out of it. And so we'd like to seek the community board's assistance in making these plans a reality.
Yeah, thank you for coming along. The community board can receive your presentation. We can't offer any guidance on our position in a public forum, but I think it's a wonderful club. You said 1880s. I mean, that makes it 146 odd.
Squash wasn't that long, but squash was in the 60s. But
Squash, nearly 150 years old.
Yep.
Any questions from members?
My question, can I make a comment there?
Mike, what?
Good on you, assistant here. And I'm sure a little support will be forthcoming. I'm not allowed to just sign that, apparently. If we were at a thing here, only asking for a letter of support, this would be a lot easier.
We're also after $2 million. We've been approaching local businesses, and I personally have been really surprised, possibly not surprised, but really impacted by encouraged by how generous I think the support is out there. Yep. As we get closer to making this happen, I think that the ball will start rolling. I think it's a really significant project. I think that there aren't a lot of buildings in Cambridge where people can just come and do stuff. We've got open plan areas for all sorts of activities, and I'd like to see more people coming into the club and making the most of it, because I think it's places like the Rackets Club and other social organisations are where the community actually gathers and becomes a community. Everything else, I think, is words, you know.
And on that note, we've got to go play in the club tonight.
He does.
Just got another question.
Sorry.
Chris?
Just a wee question. I'm new.
Chris, let's hold it close to your mouth.
There's
Yeah.
no things.
I'm new. The location of the squash club and that, is that on Thornton Road?
Yeah, just on the top of the
Yeah,
steep
yeah.
Albert Street
Yep.
and the flat
Yeah,
bit.
yeah.
We've made some submissions to the Connections project because there's a lot of safety issues around that, and there's also lots of potential pedestrian related things that we'd like to address as well around the club.
Okay, cool, thank you.
I've wondered, have you considered cutting down the hedge so people can see what you're doing more often? Or is there wind protection?
So actually, that's been a discussion with the council.
We have had visits from council on that the hedge itself is failing. It does need to be replaced. And so we've made some comments in a submission about what we'd like to see there, and we've talked that over with council staff. And I think the rough plan was that we replace the hedge, but also improve pedestrian access so that people can walk from, you know, the exercise area and the arts centre and the bowling club and make their way past the club without having to cross roads and go over gravel paths, and really improve that connection between the club and the lake, because, you know, the lake is such a key asset of ours and we're in such a prominent position on that corner. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Yep. Okay, following on the agenda, we're moving to the confirmation of the minutes of the previous meeting. Just go through and confirm. If, unless anyone's got any concerns, I just would like to note that Deb's is a lot more, if it's the wrong word, you know, there's more in these minutes than were previously, and that was on the basis of some feedback we gave last meeting, so I'm just very thankful for that. Yeah, it's a great job. So I'd like to confirm the minutes of the meeting held 17th of February 2026 as circulated with the agenda as a true and correct record of proceedings. Like a mover? Gerda, a seconder? Chris? All in favour? Against? Carried. Warmly would like to welcome Dale Marie Morgan to present to us. Dale, you came to the last meeting in the public forum, and you've moved up the ranks tonight and got an agenda spot. So.
I like how this board moves really fast and can actions and stuff like that. So, tuatahi, tēnā koutou, bonjour, and konnichiwa. So, as I started last time, and I'm going to give myself a pat on the back for being late and in the wrong place tonight, because I was able to bring other people with me tonight who also were in the wrong venue. So apologies for turning up in the wrong place. And I even bought you hot cross buns. They're down there on the table. I was missing the microwave back at the chambers, so that's why I went that way. I have also left a copy of my, it's not a report, it's a bit of what I've been doing in the community from the Māori ward. They're all on the credenza back in the chambers down the road. But I would like to mention Sonny King, who did pass away of Maunga Tautari Marae. His wife is Rangipuhi. A lot of Cambridge know her as Gay, and Gay is the one that goes out with Harry Wilson a lot and does a lot of stuff culturally for our community. So she lost her husband recently, and she lost her son last year. So, and I make reference to all those that have passed over summer, and we think of them, and we come back to the light. Ki te hunga ora, tēnā koutou. So when you do get to see it, and I'll send it to Deb so that she can add it to the meeting pack later on. There is a key thing I do want to speak about that isn't here, and I had the privilege of attending the Total Mobility meeting yesterday on behalf of Councillor Gordon and Councillor St Pierre. I've got a copy of the template of changes that the Ministry would like to do. I've given Gerda a copy of each of these, especially for whānau that do engage with communities that have accessibility problems. There is not a lot of consultation on these changes from people that struggle with accessibility problems. These are changes being made by the government, and I feel that from what I listened to yesterday at that meeting, people who are affected are not part of this. So I would encourage anybody who's doing a lot of work or in our communities, especially with our elderly community, they are saying certain changes with regards to total mobility means that people will have to be reassessed, and there actually isn't enough assessors within the program to do this. One of the key things I picked up is currently accessibility whānau, they have 40 trips a month that they can get this, but in the required new changes, it could be going down to 20. But one trip is only, if you're high needs to Waikato Hospital, one trip is one way. So if you've only got 20 trips, what they're proposing, that second one, for a high needs person, you could run through your 20 trips within the first 2 weeks of your month. That's really hard. And I feel for places like Waihi, that they used as the example, have only one swing chair van. They have no Uber. They have no taxis that are suited up for their people. And we have a very ageing fleet of taxis across the country. I don't know what our accessibility is in that space here. We had a lot of feedback about how people are being treated when they're trying to get on the bus and off the bus. That concerns me because we have a high elderly population out here, and I know that busing is really important. So I won't talk too much to it. Gerda has this, and I'll leave a copy here with us, and I'll get an electronic copy to the meeting pack, and I will make sure I will check the venue next time. So that's me in a total nutshell. Kia ora tātou. Oh, I do have one mihi. He mihi nui kia koe e te councillor. I tai atu koe ki te paukai a Parawira. In previous years, we have had the mayor and we've had other councillors come to Parawira Paukai. I was really impressed with our mayor and our councillors that came on the Sunday and then came for the full day on the Monday at the Paukai. What I am so proud of is I've had so many people tell me on the day and tell me throughout last week as I attended other pōwhiri, especially to where those people that were affected by the floods, and people came up to me at Ōkapu Marae, which is in Aotea, and I'd never been there before, and they said to me, "Good to see your mayor there. It was great to see your mayor there at the Paukai," and they knew every councillor that was there. They know all those names, they know who the mayor is, so that just really warmed my heart. So tēnā tātou. I'll leave them.
Questions from anybody? Don't worry, thank you very much for the feedback, for the council in particular. We acknowledge and receive your speech tonight. The offer's on the table always from the Cambridge Community Board to catch up and have a coffee informally if you want to talk about your issues going forward. Thank you. So Cambridge Community Board, we have to make a formal movement that the Cambridge Community Board receives a verbal presentation from Māori Ward Councillor Dale Marie Morgan. All in favour?
Mover, seconder.
Mover and seconder. Mike first, mover. Pip seconder. All in favour? Against? Carried. Right, it's Katie's time. Cambridge Connections. Katie, welcome this evening. Great to catch up and hear progress on the Cambridge Connections project.
Yeah, thank you. Kia ora tātou. I'll probably move down the agenda because I have come empty-handed, so I'll need to do better next month, obviously. Yeah, that's right. Councillor Morgan set the bar. Today is really just an opportunity to give you an update and a little bit more from the paper that's already been pre-circulated. Last time I came, we'd obviously just started the 6-week community engagement process to gather ideas for sort of short, medium and long-term ideas. That time closed on the 9th of March, and we are now busily trying to work our way through what is a very, very long list at the moment and get that into a sensible long list to be able to take to the Strategic Planning and Policy Committee on the 1st of April for endorsement. I've got a couple of a couple of stats to be able to just give you a little bit of a flavour of just how much feedback we've got, and perhaps, and that's what I can do tonight. I'd said in the paper that I'd also be able to give you a sense of the key themes that were coming through. It's actually a little bit too early for that because we've received so much feedback. We're still working through that. That will obviously be in the report that goes to SPMP, which, and I'll be able to circle back on that. But we did ask, as it says in the paper, sort of 4 questions of the public, and we had sessions working through our way through the NZTA intervention hierarchy, thinking about sort of land use and about demand management and how you make the most of what you've got, and then how you deal with new infrastructure, with the Ideas Forum and our community reference group, as well as having a range of stakeholder meetings and engagements. Overall, we have we've got over some 500, right now, our first tally's 578 pieces of feedback, and that's a range of, from individuals, but also feedback that actually encompasses feedback from a range of groups, all in one bit of feedback. We've had certainly over 1,500 ideas generated through this process, and there's obviously some of those are, and we're just clustering those into themes so that some will be around about an orbital bus, some will be about bridge locations, some of them will be about intersection improvements, things like that, so that we can actually look at what those themes are. But I've been really pleased and really impressed with the calibre of the feedback. We've had the sort of and the range of opportunities, both with the number of people who can just jump online and vote up or vote down ideas, and so there's over 1,000 of those kind of people who just want to quickly jump in and provide something small. We've had almost 200 large written pieces of feedback that people have emailed in as well, often with sort of large designs as well and ideas. And a range of things in between. So I think we've had really good coverage across the range of the community, between that and the stakeholder meetings that we've had as well. What we're doing at the moment is making sure that we've got all of that material translated into a long list, which is grouped into the 4 stages of the NZTA intervention hierarchy, which is in the appendix to your paper, so that you can then start to theme them up. And what we'll see is then we are taking the absolutely full list, take it into themes, group them where we've got duplication, take that through the assessment criteria, and then generate the long list of ideas, which we move from the 1,500-ish ideas to 500-ish ideas on the long list, which is the thing that will go to this is the Strategic Policy and Planning and Policy Committee on the 1st of April. So that's the work that we're busy doing at the moment. So perhaps I'll just leave it there and take any questions that you've got. But thank you very much for the feedback from the community board.
I just had some feedback from especially elderly clients who really wanted to be part of this, and they found the feedback really hard. Now I know there's a facility in council that they can go and the girls can help them. Is there any way in making it a little bit easier to put the feedback, especially for people who's not computer savvy?
Well, look, we can keep looking at these opportunities every time. I mean, this time people could post in feedback, people could drop off written feedback in the slots at the council counter, and so there were ways of doing that in hard copy as well as online. So we tried to cater for that range. But if people have got specific feedback, then we'd certainly love to hear it to make sure that we can keep improving that, not just for this project, but obviously for the comms and engagement team to be thinking about all the work that we're doing. Yeah, thanks, Gerda.
Yeah, thank you, Gerda. I just remind members we need to, for the live stream, be able to introduce each question maker. So just put your hand up or signal me to introduce you. Thank you. Any further comments or questions? Kate, I just had one. So on the 1st of April, does the long list become public?
Yes, absolutely. The long list will be in the long list for endorsement will be in the paper that's already in the public arena for the SPMP committee on the 1st of April, and then after that's hopefully endorsed by the committee on the 1st of April, then each stage of the complete list of ideas, how it's been themed, and each of those stages will all be made available on the website, yes. So people will then be able to see if they've submitted, how their idea has actually tracked through all of the way and how it was assessed.
And then the next gate after that to the shortlist is sort of 2 months.
Yes, that's
So
right.
June, July, SPMP.
Yes, that's right.
Yes.
And so that's quite an intense period of work for us. So that's the other thing that will be going to the committee on the 1st of April is the criteria that we'll use to move from that long list to short list. But we do have quite a lot of technical work to be able to do through that time. Yeah.
Okay, if there's no further questions, Katie, thank you for presenting this evening. And just a formal motion that the Cambridge Community Board receives the report of Katie Mays, Executive Director, titled Cambridge Connections Update. Do I have to say the number? ECM 1163248. Mover? Gerda. Seconder? Pip. All in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. Peter, Wendy, Peter Skilton and Wendy Robinson have come to present to us about the proposed private plan change 37 Ryder Park on the edge of Leamington. Welcome, Peter and Wendy. Thank you. Take it away.
Kia ora koutou. Thank you very much for having us. So this report has been prepared by Alice Morris, Senior Policy Planner. She's unable to come today, so you end up with Peter and I. So essentially in the 4th of February SPMP meeting, we sought and received approval to accept the plan change for processing and to move to notification. So that's the formal language from the RMA. Accepting it for processing doesn't mean anything in terms of viewpoints, just to be clear. So the private plan change will now move to notification, and we are proposing to do that on the 26th of March. So our team unfortunately was slightly misunderstood, where from the 4th of February we have 4 months to undertake that notification, which meant that has to happen before May. We were unfortunately translated into it was going to be notified in May, so we just want to make it really clear that we will be proceeding with notification the 26th of March. So that's a 20-day process, and anyone and everyone will be able to, it will be publicly notified. It will be advertised in some very boring ways at the back of the paper, but also some more exciting ways at the front of the paper, and letters will be directly sent to those considered directly affected. Information will be available on our webpage that exists for this private plan change. So this report isn't actually a conversation about merit, it's more just a procedural where things are at in terms of the processing. Do you have anything to add, Peter?
No, unless you'd like us to explain the plan change and what it's effectively.
I think we'd like that the report is taken as read, and unless any particular member has a question about the detail. But otherwise, we're more than welcome comments and ideas and thoughts about it. Pip.
Thanks, guys, for your report. I think there's a general perception out there that they don't quite understand what a private plan change is. So could you just sort of, because I think people are thinking it's a private plan change, and so therefore, it is just the first step along a long road that will ultimately result in maybe a sort of a positive result, and so therefore that can continue. Can you just tell us what private plan change means, and from here on in, from the private plan change request through to potential development, what would the process be?
Yeah, so effectively a private plan change is the landowners in that area who is asking to change the zoning for their land. So this particular piece of land is already considered where we would like future development to happen, but not until post 35 is what our district plan sees. So part of that is future already, the other part is rural, and they wish to change that to be residential use effectively. So we'll be notifying. people can put in submissions. People will then be able to put in further submissions. So if they've got further comments on what's been put in, there'll be then hearings and a decision later. So it's not a quick stage. It's not a guarantee of anything. Once they have a private plan change that effectively gives them the zoning, they will then need to actually subdivide and do all of the further steps involved that to create what would be on the ground. So we aren't talking houses tomorrow by any stretch of the imagination. Does that answer your question? I talk planning talk, so please ask questions.
Yeah, the process to actually go from the private plan change to will there be steps along the way, which means that, for example, they may not be able to, create subdivisions, or are there options that the council might need to take in order to, because we've probably got quite a lot of developed land already.
So certainly there is a hearings process that is followed once the submissions have been lodged. A staff report is prepared which provides recommendations on the plan change to the hearings committee. The hearings committee then is able to make its decision. It can either confirm the plan change as lodged, it can decline it, or it can amend it with different provisions that might arise from the submissions that have been lodged. Once that decision has been made, then there is appeal rights to the Environment Court, which either submitters or the applicant can make. And then there are also potential further appeal rights to the High Court following that on any points of law. So yes, it is a very long and litigious process sometimes.
Mike? Mike on the mic.
Can I just clarify one thing out of that? A hearing of this magnitude is likely to be heard by independent commissioners, is that correct?
Yes, it is. Certainly the makeup of the hearings committee hasn't been determined yet.
Okay.
But it will involve an independent member.
Yep. And so given council is effectively receiving the application and delegating to commissioners or whoever to hear it, does council maintain the right to appeal to the Environment Court if whatever conditions, say for integration of network infrastructure and so on, if council's unhappy with what the hearings tribunal panel, whatever, comes up with, do they maintain the right to pursue that further?
If council lodges a submission and becomes a submitter to it, it will certainly have appeal rights in relation to any decisions that are being made. As far as the decision of the hearings panel goes, I think that there is some delegation of council's functions. I think that there might be a ability for that decision to be ratified by council.
In terms of any appeal by council, if we weren't a submitter, I don't think we can, because we're delegating that decision-making powers. If there's any appeal, exactly, if there's any appeal by another party, council is always involved in that appeal, and so would be involved in any mediation, et cetera, et cetera. In this instance, we understand we intend to put a staff submission in, so separate to the district plan team. There are a few concerns that the technical members haven't been able to work through. So.
There's been a lot of publicity. It was on the front page of the paper, I think, and people are talking about this. Change in the community often creates concern to start with. Change is hard for people to grapple with. I share those concerns. How can we help the community think about how to submit? Obviously all and sundry can be submitted, but are there particular key areas when we're talking about infrastructure, change of population, cost, roading? What areas, there are other areas that we should be thinking about when we're submitting on a change such as this?
I think all those ones you've just listed are pretty good starting points. So it is change is hard, and I think being able to understand that this is a large area proposed, so it's not going to be changed in 5 years' time or in 10 years' time. If they get it all approved as it is, it does take time to see what that change looks like. So it's identifying, okay, so imagine yourself in 10 years, what would that mean for your community and how you see it, and articulating that in either there's a lot more cars, it doesn't have to be a full technical report. It can be in layman language in terms of what that change might be and what your concerns are. Obviously, if you feel you're more directly impacted, then it's looking at whether you'd prefer to have more professional support to provide that submission.
The government is reforming the Resource Management Act, resource consents. There's discussion at the Bandit around growth pays for growth. Currently, the developer would pay for the infrastructure inside the development, but not the effects outside. Is that correct? And I feel that's an issue that the government is talking about changing perhaps in the future that might affect subdivisions such as these and how the community thinks about supporting them.
Yeah, those are certainly things that are very important with this plan change, because it's bringing a future growth cell ahead in time. Certainly, a big part of the proposed provisions of the plan change are identifying what upgrades the applicant believes is necessary to the infrastructure and what they identify as them being responsible for. Part of the provisions also require development agreements to be entered into with council prior to any development occurring. So certainly there will be a very clear focus in terms of what the developer is responsible for doing, and ensuring that there aren't undue costs arising on the ratepayers from that.
The public don't know those agreements before they submit on the plan change?
No.
No. Just clarifying that. Okay, any further questions? All right. Wendy and Peter, thank you very much for your presentation this evening. The community's got great interest in this issue, so thank you. The Cambridge Community Board received the report of Alice Morris, Senior Policy Planner, titled Proposed Private Plan Change 37, Ryder Park Structure Plan Area. Can we have a mover, please? Pip, seconder. Chris, thank you. All in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. Okay, moving on to a long-term plan update, the 2027 to 37 plan, and Melissa Russo, Manager of Strategy, has come to catch up with us again. Thank you, Melissa. Hasn't been long since we've seen you, but it's good to keep engaged with you.
Thank you for having me. So since the last Community Board meeting, we've been working towards having a workshop with our elected members next week, so 26th of March. This will be the first substantive workshop with elected members on the long-term plan, and the purpose of that is to look at shaping the strategic priorities and goals for the long-term plan. It is a really important and key part of the process. Obviously, it kind of lays the foundations for what comes to follow, and ultimately it will have an impact on things like levels of service and what projects do and don't get funded. So it is a really key part of the long-term plan, and important that we do it right up front at the start of the process. And then the other key part of the workshop is starting to have conversations with our elected members around the financial strategy, and we're looking to gain, I guess, some kind of guidance and direction on what their thinking is around some of the key financial parameters. So these are things like rates increases, debt levels, changes to level of service, those types of things. So that's what we're looking to cover off at the workshop on the 26th. It is an open workshop, and we will be inviting the community board chairs to attend.
Thank you, Melissa. Any questions? Pretty quiet night tonight. Okay, thank you for that, Melissa. So we just need to move a motion that the Cambridge Community Board receives the report of Melissa Russo, Manager Strategy, titled 2027-37 Long-Term Plan Overview and Community Board Engagement. A mover, please. Gerda, seconder. Thank you, Stuart. All in favour? Against? Carried. That's a big tick for that one. Good. Okay, getting towards the end of the meeting now, but no less important, we've got the chairperson's report. Unfortunately, Charlotte's not with us tonight. The report's been received and we've all read it. Does anybody have any commentary about any of the issues raised in the report? She talked about Cambridge Connections, Plan Change 25, shallow belts and artificial crop structures. She's mentioned the Private Plan Change 37, which was just presented on Ryder Park. Alignment with the community, particularly the business chamber, the presentation, the public forum last month about keeping Cambridge beautiful, and a small win there about rubbish and recycling, and then just a comment about being active, our members in the community being active to hear the community voice. There's no further comments or questions, hot issues that...
That's good.
Great. Okay, so without further ado, move that the Cambridge Community Board receives a report of Charlotte Fitzpatrick, Chairperson, Cambridge Community Board, titled Chairperson's Report, March 2026. Mover? Chris, thank you. Seconder? Stuart? All in favour? Against? Carried. Treasury Report for the period ended 28th of February 2026. Perhaps governance could help me what we need to discuss here. The figures are presented in the reports.
There's no changes.
No changes.
Any questions, I think?
Yep. No questions. Love it. Okay, good. So, that the Cambridge Community Board receives a report of Nada Milne, Financial Accountant, titled Treasury Report for the period ended 28th of February 2026. Mover? Gerda, seconder. Stuart, all in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. Board member reports. So every month we go around the table to hear from board members and their engagement in the community. Where we start is always a contentious issue. We're going to go to Gerda first. Thank you, Gerda.
I couldn't make the Cambridge Safer Community meeting because due to family emergency, so I'm waiting for the minutes on that. Le Quinoa, we had a really good meeting this morning regarding the planning and coming of a contingency. We set some boundaries, some clarification of where a community board is and where the friendship group is, association is. So that was a really good one, and there's a lot of plans in place or going to be in place. So we'll have a quick meeting in 3 weeks' time just to clarify that. I had quite a few meetings with individual people to prompt them to put a submission in on the Cambridge connections, and they were quite keen to do that. Another meeting with a lot of groups and individual about the, I'll call it the demo work site on Cambridge Road. A lot of emotion flying there. It was really hard to work between the emotion and the facts. I also had a meeting with Quentin Budd to get more information there. Still a lot of unresolved issues that we're working on, but hopefully we will resolve that to everyone's, that everyone is there. I met with people by chance when I took my grandson to the Kaipaki Petting Zoo, which was really interesting, and it turned into a lot of discussion around the airport, you know, the development on the airport and the impact on agriculture. We've discussed that before. And also Plan Change 37, a lot of concern there, but I think there's a lot of misunderstanding of where we are at. So that was a good clarification tonight.
Thank you very much, Gerda. Stuart? Just.
Yeah, sorry, I haven't got anything to add.
Okay, thanks, Stuart. Chris?
Okay. On the 25th of February, they had the first Anzac and Armistice meeting, and I ended up getting to be the chair. We went through the initial process of getting the organisation set up and starting getting things done. The 10th of March, we had the Community Board had an induction meeting on local government, on the Local Government Act. I found that extremely helpful, and it worked for me. Then on the 12th of March, we had the second Anzac Day Organising Committee meeting, and we are well into organising and getting things done for that. The 14th of March, I went to the farmers market just to try and be a representative for the council, but I found it, and at the same time I met Pip there as well, to go basically cold calling and talking to people doesn't really work for me. They tend to, what are you up to, you know? So one of the things that Pip and I did talk about was that we have, say, once a month, we have a gazebo and a Waipa District Council flag, and have something written up like "Let's Talk" or something like that, and try and be proactive as far as getting people to talk to us, because the only way that we know what's going on is when people tell us. So that's my little thought.
Thank you, Chris. I'll just make some comments before I hand over for a council update. The Safer Cambridge Trust contacted me about they're looking to host some rural workshops to provide first aid training in the rural space. So they're looking for farmer hosts, which I'm going to try and help provide some people there. The Bohoro Sister City relationship, we haven't had a meeting. There is no trip on the agenda, but we need to conduct a first meeting just to get together, so that will happen soon. This morning I went on a webinar with the Minister for Local Government, Simon Watts, and it was a webinar, there was 180 people on it. It was just interesting to hear about the pace of change and the central government's drive for change, and for me as a person in the community to understand that better, to be able to tell people what's happening. So that was good. I just had a question maybe for staff here, perhaps about the wind-up of the civil defence in the western side of our district. I know it's the weather event is long and truly gone, but is there anything still happening in that space? Just in a minute if we could do that. In terms of rural, you know, it's been a very strong season for the farming community. The kiwi fruit harvest is underway, so I'm sure you'll read about in the papers that's what's happening in the rural sector. Julie, you're going to give us an update about the civil defence. Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity. Just giving you an update on the recovery programme that the council is currently working on. So I'm part of a team that's working at recovery for those people that have been affected, as you say, in that part of the district. The majority of people are now coming into recovery. You know, they understand what's happened to them. Waipa's been very fortunate to some extent compared to what happened in Otauranga, but we're still seeing the impact for Whānau and what's happening there. So where we are at the moment, we've got people in two particular roads, Corcoran Road and Whātui Road, that have had that huge experience where the road has either collapsed or give way, and currently on Cochrane Road people are only allowed out at certain times of the day while the road work is getting done. We've been very lucky in our communications and good with our communications. We've been able to get out to people and tell them exactly what's happening. There's a mayoral relief fund as well that's in situ. And as of today, myself and a colleague have been ringing round all those people impacted, checking in, seeing how they're doing, identifying if there's still any need that they might want to, and obviously informing them of the mayoral relief fund as well. Is there anything in particular else you'd like to know?
No, that's good. I just wanted the public to know what's happening. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. And also Cambridge Connections, I am the delegated member from the Community Board. I attended, I think it was 1 or 2 meetings in the last month for the Community Reference Group to develop the long list. That is obviously now closed, and there are meetings going forwards, and we also prepared the Community Board submission for Cambridge Connections. Okay, Pip?
Thank you. I sort of just commenting on Chris's comments about the Cambridge market. Go right the way back to when we all got elected as councillors. One of the things we said, we must get out and talk to the community. I personally have sort of taken it, very seriously to make sure that we do get the opportunity for people to talk to us. And so there is, fortunately, a flag which has sort of got Waipa District Council Let's Talk. We have access to a gazebo that we could, set up, once a month. And so, probably I will come around the community board members to see and elected members that we might be able to, actually have something either, the first of the month or the last of the month that we could actually directly communicate with. So there's a free flow between the community and the council representatives or the community board. So, I think, I'd really like to get that moving. Just a big shout out to Cambridge Chamber. I got a note late last week to say that they've, and if people want to go to cambridge.co.nz, there is this amazing website which is very interactive. It's got Stay, Shop, Eat, Home of Champions, Explore Cambridge events, and you can link on each one of these, and they will take you to where you can go shopping. You go back, you can sort of, look to stay, and there's a whole series of places that you can stay. Wonderful, modern, contemporary, technologically well advanced. I think it's a fantastic thing, and I just have to shout out for the Cambridge Chamber having put this together and got so many people behind it. And really, I think we could get a lot more organisations, sitting at the back of this, and it's really put Cambridge on the map. So well done.
Thank you, Pip. Mike.
Okay, I'll just do my usual update from council. The community board's actually pretty well informed on the 2 biggest ticket items, which are Cambridge Connections and the long-term plan, and both Katie and Melissa have presented on them. Now, they are really going to kick off from now. Cambridge Connections, look, let's talk that first. When the long list gets approved, and that was April, wasn't it?
1st of April.
Yeah, 1st of April, when that gets approved, and then the methodology that we're going to use to go from long list to short list, that's when the rubber really sort of begins to meet the road. So I'd be encouraging Cambridge Community Board to be very involved in that and be all over that decision-making process, okay? Really look forward to your input on that one. Long-term plan equally is there's going to be a big long-term plan. It doesn't get any easier, to be honest. And so, as Melissa said, that's this first public workshop coming up. It's one of the sort of foundation pieces, probably sort of the first public airing of the direction that we're heading, okay? So from then on, it's quite a long time before that long-term plan comes live. It's 1st of July next year, but these things take a long time. And so that's the beginning. And again, to the community board, be in early, okay? If you want to influence a long-term plan, you want to be in early, and you want to be pretty clear on, your comments and critiques, okay? You don't want to come late. it's much easier to influence early, so keep a really close eye on that. I'll keep you informed. Melissa will as well. We'll keep you right in the loop, okay? But it's something that, I think I've said this before, when I was first on the community board, we really dropped the ball on that. We didn't quite realise the importance of a long-term plan. We weren't proactive enough, and we kind of didn't pay it due attention until too late, and we didn't realise the importance of a long-term plan. If something's not in the long-term plan, it basically doesn't happen in our world, okay? Because we're sort of that prescribed about how we plan, how we spend. It's this very public and formulaic process, okay? So if you come up with a bright idea in a couple of years, and it's not in the long-term plan, it's basically not happening, okay? So yeah, we'll keep you informed on that, but that's my little pep talk there. So since we last met on 17 February, since Cambridge Community Board last met, we've had a few council meetings and subcommittees of council. I'll just run you through the high points there. Strategic Planning and Policy met on 18 February. That was the day after our last Cambridge Community Board. That was mostly just to deal with our submissions to central government proposals. This is what Andrew was just talking about. He was on a webinar earlier. As you know, there's a heap going on in this space. The sort of legislative change coming down on our sector is just like this bloody waterfall, to be honest. It's going to be hard to keep up with. It is going to affect the long-term plan quite a lot. So the two that we were commenting on or submitting on were the simplifying local government piece of work. That's the one that's looking to do away with regional councils in layman's language, okay? And then the other one was the development levies system, which is going to replace our current development contribution system. Really key for us being a growth council because you know, we're always trying as much as possible to make growth pay for growth, and this is quite a significant change from the old development contribution system to the new development levy system. We're really lucky that our sort of head development guy, Tony, has been on the government panel, so we sort of have a bit of a inside knowledge there, and that gives me quite a bit of confidence that it's going to be an improvement. Service delivery met on 18 February. We received the Waipa Community Facilities Trust. I thought I'd just note this just so that you guys knew that we don't directly run the pools, either in Te Awamutu or Cambridge. We run it through this Community Facilities Trust. They report to us every 6 months. It's a really sort of key piece of council infrastructure. It's very high profile, public facing, so that's quite an important relationship we have with the Community Facilities Trust, okay? Also there we did a couple of road closures. Head Road, Stokes Road out my way, out Mangatautari, and the Kairangi Road out Andrews Way. Those are for car races, the Bent Sprint. I mention this because for us rural people, these are quite significant disruptions, these road closures. We approved them and we had no objections, but it's something as a rural councillor I always keep an eye on. You know, how acceptable these are to our rural community, because I don't think this would fly in town, that your road would be closed from 9 in the morning till 5 in the afternoon and you couldn't leave. If you hear anything, I'd be interested. I mean, they're great events, but there's balance here. So, yeah, there was also the Waipa Fun Run here in town that happened on 8 March. We approved a road closure for that. So that was that meeting. Then council on 25th of February, this was a pretty big one, and this was dealing with Waikato Waters. So as you know, that is set to go live on 1st of July coming up. And so we approved the transfer agreement. That's the agreement that transfers all our assets across to Waikato Waters Limited. And novates, I think is the word, our debt. That means our debt goes to them as well. And we approved the guarantee that Waipa District Council is giving Waikato Waters Limited in respect of that debt that went across to them, okay? Interesting point there is that when this was first contemplated, we were anticipating sending all 3 waters, so drinking water, wastewater and stormwater across to Waikato Waters Limited. The stormwater component of that has been delayed, as in it's staying with council for at least another year, okay? That was a decision that we reached at that meeting, or finally confirmed. We'd workshopped it, and we'll see how that develops. It had got to the point where none of the other councils going into Waikato Waters Limited were transferring their stormwater. There was quite a lot of complication developing around that, so it was best to keep it out. Stormwater is really intricately tied up with roads because so much of stormwater management is in the road corridor. And so it's kind of the hardest part of the three waters sort of thing. The drinking water and wastewater is all in pipes under the ground. It kind of makes more sense. Right, so that's me. Any questions on any of that would be very welcome.
And Mike, in February, the New Zealand Elite Road Cycling Championships were in Rotorangi, and they closed the road there. And it was organised by farmers, so they were very happy to let me, for example, use the road. The council would. The road was closed, but they said if you can get out in between laps, you can do it. So there's a practical sense where it was okay. But they decided to run the 200-kilometre road cycling race for 20 laps around the Rotorangi loop because closing longer sections of road is just too difficult and too expensive. So there's a balance. Like, I would love the road cyclists to do a one-way 180k course, but they just can't do it, and road closure safety is just too hard. So I think they really listened to the community and didn't close too much road for events. I was quite happy, even though it was my own road. Just one thing to add, I was at a farmer meeting with 150 farmers about a balanced fertiliser. They probably supply 50% of the fertiliser to New Zealand farmers, and they were just talking about rationalising cost, and they have about 60 supply stores in New Zealand where they move fertiliser. They recently closed their biggest superphosphate manufacturing facility in the Mount, and are now doing it only in the South Island, and they're going to truck the product around. So that was a big thought for me about trucking. They're going to be trucking a lot more fert around to save cost. They're going to sell land to bring money back onto their balance sheet and move fert around by truck. So that has implications for the roads of the Waipa and the rural community and the urban community as well. Debs has rightly pointed out that the Ryder Park private plan change is on the agenda for next month's meeting. So we have a good opportunity to talk about it and prepare a submission after the meeting next month. Any further comments from any board members? Thank you very much for your efforts out there in the community. So with all being said and done, that brings us to the end of our meeting. We have a date for the next meeting, and that is to be held at 6 p.m. on Tuesday the 21st of April, the location being Kaipaki Room at the Cambridge Service Centre of the District Council. That draws